In the 7th year together, Anthony cheated. He shoved the divorce agreement in front of me. That stubborn little girl refuses to be the other woman. No matter what. Besides the company, I'll give you everything, as long as you agree to divorce. I stood by him from having nothing to everything, fought for 7 years, loved for 7 years. In the end, he was willing to give up everything for another woman, just to get a divorce paper. That day, it felt like the sky fell down on me. I completely broke apart. I smashed the house to pieces, even destroyed the car Anthony gave to the mistress. That night, I begged him desperately, trying to hold him back with my body. Anthony pushed me away, looking at my madness with cold eyes. Katarina, have some self-respect. Look at what you've become. What I owe you, I'll pay with everything I have. These 7 years, you haven't lost out. In the end, I signed the divorce agreement and walked away. Before leaving, I stared at the message sent to my phone just a minute ago. Lost the bet? Maybe it's time to think about me? Okay. Chapter 1. The day I found out Anthony was cheating, my whole world collapsed. I had a huge fight with him, smashing the house to pieces, even destroying the car Anthony gave to the mistress. I refused to let go, hysterical like a madwoman, screaming and throwing a fit, breaking down and causing a scene, while desperately clinging on with my body. Anger, breakdown, unwillingness, pain, they all swept over me. Anthony sat on the couch, coldly watching me until I raised the laptop on the dining table high above my head. Anthony stood up, grabbed my hand, frowning. Had enough of the drama? Can we sit down and talk now? His calmness made me look like a complete joke. Not enough. Anthony, we've been together for 7 years. Since college. How could you do this to me? In a storm of rage, I ripped my hand away from Anthony and slammed the laptop hard onto the floor. The laptop shattered instantly, and inside were Anthony's work notes from last night's late-night session. Anthony's face darkened, his eyes burning with suppressed anger. Katarina, what the hell are you doing? Look at yourself right now. He didn't even have to say it. I already knew exactly how I looked. Hair a mess, face a wreck, but my heart just hurt so damn much. I grabbed him, crying and hitting, totally hysterical, until finally, I slapped Anthony hard across the face. Anthony finally changed his expression. Katarina, that's the difference between you and Patricia. She would never let herself turn into a shrew. Anthony stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door shut with a loud bang. A suffocating wave hit me, my chest aching and heavy. I collapsed to the floor in despair, breaking down into tears. Anthony and I, we once loved each other deeply, from campus days to wedding dresses. We spent 7 years together. During the hardest times, we lived in a basement and survived on expired instant noodles. In that tiny, cramped basement, we comforted each other and held on to wild dreams for the future. For a 5 yuan bowl of soup noodles, he'd pick out the only bits of meat just for me. After work, he'd even haul steel bars at the construction site, just to buy me a birthday gift. That basement was cold and damp. I was in agony from cramps, and at night Anthony would hold my feet close to his chest, his eyes full of pain and tenderness. Katarina, from now on, I'm going to make it big, and you won't have to suffer because of me anymore. But back then, I never felt the pain. My parents divorced when I was little, and I never really felt loved. The love Anthony gave me was enough to help me fight through all the hardships in life. A few years later, riding the wave of new technology, Anthony made it big. When he earned his first money, Anthony couldn't wait to run downstairs to my company, holding me tight and not letting go. Katarina, I made money. I told you, I'll give you a good life, and you won't have to suffer following me anymore. Only when Anthony finally let go of me did I realize he was crying. In the years that followed, Anthony caught the perfect wave, started a company, and it just kept growing, until he became the so-called boss who everyone talks about now. He kept his promise too, gave me a huge wedding, a villa, luxury cars, everything, the absolute best. Every time I said I didn't want it, Anthony would shut me up and pin me down. If you don't want it, then what's the point of me busting my ass? In the end, I had no choice but to go along with Anthony. Rich or poor, I never stopped loving him as long as he was happy. Such a wonderful Anthony. Such a deeply loving Anthony. I never thought that one day he'd fall for someone else. Patricia's appearance was pure chance. At first, he just casually mentioned that the company had hired a new assistant, a top university graduate, really capable, named Patricia. Then, the name Patricia started coming up more and more in Anthony's conversations. And whenever he said Patricia, a smile would slip onto his lips without him even realizing it. After a while, though, Anthony never mentioned Patricia again, but he started zoning out more and more, and the times he was close to me grew fewer and fewer. I just knew Anthony was falling for her. I freaked out and confronted Anthony, but Anthony flat out denied it, saying they were just a normal boss and subordinate, telling me to stop making a scene. That was the first time Anthony got impatient with me, all because of Patricia, until I caught Anthony and Patricia in the garage. Inside the Porsche Anthony gave Patricia. He was holding her close. Chapter 2. I lost it, kicked off my heels, stormed forward, and smashed the windshield with all my might. I'm not a calm person. When I'm in love, I give all my love without holding anything back. So I just can't stand betrayal. What happened next was chaotic for a while. Anthony got out of the car to stop me, letting Patricia go ahead first. Before leaving, Patricia rolled down the car window and gave Anthony a proud look. Anthony, I'm not going to be the other woman from now on, unless it's work-related. Let's not contact each other privately. Anthony's hand froze as he stopped me, a flash of loneliness in his eyes. Back home, Anthony and I fell into a cold war. Anthony rubbed his forehead, looking exhausted. Katarina, Patricia and I are nothing like what you think. There's absolutely nothing between us. I suddenly lost it. Completely hysterical. Nothing between you? You gave her a car. Nothing between you? You two were hugging in the car. What's next? Nothing between you in bed? Anthony's voice finally carried a sharp edge of anger. Katarina, stop making a scene. It's always me who's making a scene. The same guy who once held me and promised he'd stay forever, now every time he's with Patricia. It's always my fault. A blazing fury erupted from my chest, burning me until I lost all control, screaming hoarsely, Anthony, I want a divorce. Anthony froze instantly, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. The next second, he slowly stepped closer. Okay. I was stunned, frozen in place. Then, a crushing wave of panic and pain hit me, making it hard to breathe. I didn't really want to divorce Anthony. After all these years together, how could I just let go? I was just hurting so much, feeling so wronged and furious, desperate to scream it all out. In my helpless rage, I smashed everything in the house, until just a minute ago, when I slapped Anthony across the face. Anthony went into the room and never came out. We started the silent treatment again, since Patricia showed up. I've lost count of how many times we've had this cold war. I squatted on the floor hugging my knees for so long that my heart started aching numb. I got up and walked toward the bedroom. When I walked in, Anthony was texting on WeChat, his eyes and brows full of tenderness, with no trace of the cold impatience he showed me just moments ago. Swallowing my humiliation, I stepped forward to hug Anthony, clinging to him, begging so humbly, Anthony, can you please not get a divorce? Anthony's body stiffened, and his hands stopped sending the WeChat message. I tilted my head back, kissing Anthony nonstop, my voice trembling. All those positions I didn't like before? I'm fine with them now. A flash of shock mixed with desire flickered in Anthony's eyes. The next second, he snapped back to his cold expression, frowned, and pushed me away. Katarina, since when did you become this worthless? My body froze instantly. Anthony stood up and pulled out the divorce agreement he had prepared long ago. Patricia's stubborn, she absolutely refuses to be the mistress. Besides the company, I'll give you everything, as long as you agree to divorce. Anthony put down the divorce agreement without a second thought and walked out. I stood by Anthony through everything, from nothing to now. Fighting for 7 years, loving for 7 years. But in the end, he was willing to give up everything for another woman, just to get that damn divorce paper. I completely lost it, screaming at Anthony's retreating back. She said she wouldn't be the mistress, right? Well, I'm not divorcing. I want her to stay the mistress who's always hidden in the shadows, never taking the top spot. Anthony's footsteps outside the main door suddenly stopped. Then, without a second thought, he stepped forward. Do whatever you want. What I owe you, I'll pay with everything I have. These 7 years, you haven't lost out. Anthony walked away without looking back. He left me there, collapsed on the spot, my heart breaking like it was about to shatter. Chapter 3. I don't want to let go. 7 years together, walking through everything with him. Anthony had become part of my very bones. Forcibly tearing him away felt like skinning and flaying my own flesh. But Anthony was dead set on divorcing me. He started flaunting Patricia, parading her everywhere they went. He had Patricia's name tattooed on his chest, ran all over the streets at 3 a.m. just to bring Patricia her favorite wontons. On stormy days, he'd carry Patricia into the car, wade through flooded streets, bending down just to shield her from the wind and rain. Love makes the powerful bow their heads, makes those on top bend their backs. But all of this, he'd done it all for me before. He took Patricia to the restaurant we used to go to, shared the playlist that was just ours, even spilled our past, our secrets, one by one to Patricia. True feelings change in a heartbeat. Now, Anthony treats Patricia just like he treated me 7 years ago. But how could I ever accept that? Even if he gave me everything he owns, how could that ever compare to the 7 years we stood by each other through thick and thin? I started trying every possible way to get Anthony to come home. I called Anthony, but he didn't pick up. I sent him WeChat messages, but he didn't reply, just left one sentence. Contact me again after you agree to the divorce. In the end, I took a photo of myself sitting on the windowsill and sent it to Anthony. Within half an hour, Anthony rushed back, completely anxious. When he saw me sitting perfectly fine on the living room sofa, Anthony just exploded. Katarina, what the hell are you doing? Look at you now, no wonder your parents don't want you. I was stunned, frozen in place. My parents split up when I was little. My dad hated that I was a girl and just didn't want me. And my mom? She saw me as a burden, leaving me home alone since I was a kid, only giving me a few $100 a month for living expenses. I spent my entire childhood all alone, going to school alone, coming home alone, trying to act like an adult by doing laundry and cooking all by myself. Nighttime was the scariest part for me. When I was 10, a man sneaked into my room and almost molested me. Since then, I've been even more terrified of the dark. I always lock the doors and windows tight. And before it even gets dark, I'm already hiding under the covers. Every little sound scares me so much I can't sleep all night. I grew up like this, trembling and fumbling alone. Until I met Anthony, I thought he would be the light in my life. But now, he's become the disaster in my life. Only the closest person knows where your deepest wounds lie. The most vulnerable scars I once revealed to him have now become the knives he uses to stab me. With tears burning in my eyes, I slammed the stuff on the table at him, breaking down and yelling, "Anthony, get out of here!" Anthony watched coldly as I slowly lost my mind, then turned and walked out the door. Before leaving, he threw out one last sentence. "When you've made up your mind, just call me back to sign." Anthony disappeared again, and after that, I couldn't reach him at all. After Anthony left, I locked myself inside the house, not stepping out for days and nights. I started having sleepless nights, just like when I was a kid. Not a single moment did my heart find any real peace. My heart was filled with unbearable pain and bitterness, wanting to scream, cry, and completely fall apart. I keep wondering, how the hell did Anthony and I end up like this? We used to be so madly in love. Was it the endless, boring daily grind that killed our passion? Or did love just lose out to the thrill of something new in the end? After hiding at home for days, I finally went to Anthony's company. I didn't even know what I was going to do there. Beg Anthony to come back while crying? Or just vent my frustration because I couldn't accept it? Maybe both? As soon as I walked in, the new receptionist asked me to register an appointment. I was so calm that I said, "Anthony's wife needs an appointment too?" Even though the voice was soft, the entire huge company suddenly went dead silent. Everyone turned to look. The receptionist girl's face changed in an instant, hesitating, unsure if it was true. and instinctively glanced at someone in the crowd. Patricia, assistant. She said she's Boss Wu's wife. Patricia arched an eyebrow and walked over to me. This was the second time I officially met her. The first was when I caught her cheating inside a Porsche. Miss Katarina. Boss Wu is busy right now and can't meet, relying on her favored status. Patricia didn't take me seriously at all, her expression dripping with arrogance and pride. She leaned in close to my ear, a cruel, mocking smile on her face. I heard your parents abandoned you, and when you were 10, you were almost molested. Someone as messed up as you, besides Anthony, probably no one else would want you, right? A surge of blood shot from my feet straight to my head, freezing every inch of me. I never thought Anthony would actually tell her that. My hands shaking, I slapped Patricia across the face with a sharp smack. Did you have a good time in the car with my husband? Chapter 4. I never wanted to make things clear. I just wanted to talk to Anthony, but Patricia crossed the line way too far, stabbing right into the darkest, most painful part of my heart. I hated her so much. I hated her so much that I didn't care about keeping up appearances, even if everything burned to ashes. I had to rip off this fake mask. The crowd gasped, then fell into a heavy silence the next second. Still too young after all. Patricia froze suddenly. A slap mark instantly appeared on her face, and tears welled up in her eyes. The next second, she was pulled into Anthony's arms. Anthony suddenly showed up, completely ignoring that I, his original wife, was still right there, and just shielded Patricia behind him, holding back his anger. She's just a little girl. What are you mad about? Take it out on me. After saying that, Anthony grabbed me and stormed toward the office. When we went in, my arm slammed into the doorframe with a loud bang, and it hurt like hell. Anthony seemed not to notice, slammed the door shut with a bang, his face pale and grim. You're causing a scene at the company, Katarina. Can you stop acting like a shrew? I fought hard to hold back my anger, kept my head down, clutched at Anthony's shirt, my eyes burning red. I'm sorry, Anthony. Please, can we not get divorced? Dignity, self-respect, I've thrown it all away. All I want is Anthony. The desperate plea in my eyes stabbed Anthony. He sighed, his expression softening a little. Katarina, my heart has already drifted away. You can't handle someone like me. That one sentence sent my heart plummeting into the abyss again. My eyes were red-rimmed, and I felt like I was breaking into pieces. Can you just tell me, why do you like her? A gentle smile suddenly appeared on Anthony's face. Patricia, she was so pure. The first time I saw her, she was crouched under the company building feeding stray cats, even saving some of her lunch for them. She had such a proud spirit, fearless of authority, and didn't care about wealth or status. She knew I was the boss, but never bowed or flattered me. Instead, such a tiny person dared to stand tall and argue her point right in front of me. Patricia, she worked so hard, often staying late to work overtime on her own, and even remembered to bring snacks for the colleagues working late at night. Hearing Anthony's words, each one wrapped in a gentle smile, my heart sank deeper and deeper. I knew he was truly lost. I knelt humbly in front of Anthony, grabbed his hand, pressed it against my face, choking back tears. But I used to be like this too. Anthony's hand went stiff. Tears fell into his palm like they burned him. Maybe thinking of the old me. Anthony's eyes softened as he gently touched my face. Katarina, if you hadn't kept making unreasonable scenes, maybe we wouldn't have had to get divorced. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. The next second, Patricia pushed the door open, covering her face and looking at me with pure disdain. Katarina, even though you slapped me, as a fellow woman, I have to tell you, people need to have self-respect. I could never lower myself just to cling to a man. Her words only made Anthony look at Patricia with even more admiration and longing. Patricia, head held high, ready to say more, but then her eyes locked onto the hand Anthony was using to caress my face. Her expression changed in an instant. She bit her lips stubbornly, her expression proud yet humiliated. Woo boss. I told you, if you haven't sorted out your family stuff, don't come bothering me again. Anthony's softness and touch disappeared in an instant, and he suddenly pulled his hand away. I looked at Patricia. Anthony always said Patricia was proud. Sure enough, being a science guy, He just couldn't see through her green tea act. Playing hard to get like that could only fool Anthony. If you don't want to be disturbed, then why do you have to insert yourself as the mistress in someone else's family? Playing both sides and standing firm like that. You really played it well. Chapter 5. I didn't expect to be this blunt. Patricia forgot to wipe the tears off her face, staring at me in shock. The next second, she lifted her head, her expression proud yet full of anger. Katarina, the one who's unloved is the mistress. For the past 2 years, I've been the one by Wu's side. Have you ever stayed with Wu working overtime until 3 a.m., watching the city at that hour? Have you ever gotten so drunk at the bar for Wu that you ended up with a bleeding stomach? Have you ever fought alongside Wu? Understood every worry he had for the company, every tough decision he had to make? You don't understand a thing. You don't know anything. You just hide behind Wu, enjoying the wealth and glory he's worked so hard for. I glanced over at Anthony, and he was completely expressionless. Suddenly, I burst out laughing. So, Anthony thought the same way after all. He felt sorry and grateful for Patricia's company these past 2 years, but totally forgot everything about how I was there with him from that tiny basement of just a few square meters. He forgot how I ran around markets with him, chasing investments until my feet were raw, just to get the company off the ground. He forgot the countless nights I stayed up late with him, working overtime, sleepless, hashing out plans. He forgot that no matter when he came home from a party, there was always a light on and a pot of hangover soup kept warm. They've completely forgotten everything I did for him, from when he was a broke nobody to now. Standing at the top, I was there every step of the way. They even forgot that time I rushed to finish a huge company order in the middle of the night, dragging my exhausted body back, only to find blood dripping down my thighs, the baby that never got to be born. I stood by him through the lowest lows, fighting alongside him, but when we finally reached the peak, he had totally forgotten where we came from. Patricia's face grew colder and more distant. It's you who can't keep up with General Wu's pace, that's why he's left you behind step by step. Do you even know what he wants? Do you understand his struggles and hardships? Can you grasp how cautiously he's walked this path? He's already been holding back for you. But you don't get him at all. You don't deserve to stand by his side. Patricia spoke with such righteousness that I instinctively glanced at Anthony. At that moment, Anthony was staring at Patricia, his deep eyes full of admiration and emotion. It was like a mountain meeting its soulmate. In that instant, I understood everything. This must have been something Anthony had complained about in front of Patricia. But Anthony forgot why I was forced to stay at home. 3 years ago, over a project, Anthony pushed his rival into a dead end. In the end, that person stormed into the company wielding a knife. At that crucial moment, I threw myself forward and took a knife for Anthony. Because of that, I nearly died on the operating table. After that, my body just gave out. Every time it rained, the scar would throb faintly. That's when I had no choice but to stay home and recover. Betrayal always comes wrapped in 1,000 fancy excuses. Suddenly, I didn't want to say a single word anymore. A relationship rotten to the core can't be fixed, no matter how hard you try. I suddenly felt overwhelming regret for my pathetic begging just minutes before. A broken heart shatters in an instant. Fine. I agree to the divorce. I stared at Anthony, every single word sinking in. But before that, there's one thing I have to do first. The next second, I grabbed the chair beside me and slammed it hard onto the desk. I heard Patricia's shocked scream, and saw Anthony shielding her as they quickly backed away. I wrecked Anthony's office. 2 people who'd long been cheating, yet playing this high and mighty, ambiguous game, ruining what dignity and love even mean. The glass door shattered under my blow, crashing all over the floor, quickly drawing a crowd outside the office, whispering among themselves. The desk, the door, the coffee table, even the little bed Anthony had set up at the back of the office for naps, all got smashed by me. If I'm gonna be wild, then I'm gonna be a shrew. At this point, I have to let out this anger to ease the pain and bitterness of everything I've sacrificed and endured these past 7 years. Anthony cares so much about his image, yet I exposed his affair with Patricia in front of everyone, and in such a dramatic, explosive way. I'm sure for a long time now, he and Patricia will be the talk of the town. Finally, amid everyone's screams, I stopped and lunged at Anthony. Anthony, I wish you and Patricia a love that burns bright and a lifetime of happiness. Chapter 6. After smashing up the company, ignoring the screams and judgment behind me, I just turned and walked away. When I got home, I pulled out the divorce papers and signed them without hesitation. My love has always been pure and fierce. When I love, I give everything I have. No holding back. Completely honest. When I don't love anymore, I turn away without a second thought. No regrets. Maybe it was because my love was too intense that Anthony met Patricia, who thought she was cold and aloof, got challenged, and just dove right in. After signing, I left the divorce agreement on the living room table and sent Anthony a WeChat message. I've already signed the divorce agreement, as you promised before. Everything except the company is mine. I'm not stupid enough to walk away with nothing. Half of everything Anthony has now belongs to me. Besides, the company is where he makes the big money. He hesitated, typed for a long time, then finally replied with just one word. Okay. That very day, I moved out of this house. The love was gone. I didn't want to stay here and be haunted by memories. While I was moving my stuff, Anthony was bringing Patricia back, ready to pick up the divorce agreement. With Anthony away, Patricia smirked coldly, trying to step back just to move forward, hoping to win Wu back. She stepped closer, pressed down on my suitcase, and lowered her voice. Katarina, don't think I don't see through you. People like you just grovel and beg Wu to come back. How could you ever really let go? I brushed Patricia's hand away, calm as ever. The dirty tricks you're so proud of? I despise them. Patricia's face suddenly changed. I dragged my suitcase and headed for the door. Right then, Anthony, who already had the divorce agreement, caught up to me. He told Patricia to wait in the car first, then stopped me. Katarina, did you really sign it? Anthony held up the divorce agreement, his face full of disbelief, with a trace of sadness. I sneered. Isn't this what you've always wanted? Anthony looked confused for a moment, then grew angry, grinding his teeth as he said, Katarina, don't regret this. Your parents don't want you anymore. Besides me, who else would love you? This guy is seriously strange. When I didn't want a divorce, he was willing to give up everything just to be free for Patricia, like his life depended on it. By then, I finally agreed, and he wore this painful, reluctant expression. I rolled my suitcase over Anthony's instep. Thanks, but I don't want your love. I moved back into my little place from before the marriage. After a quick tidy up, I settled in. I turned off my phone and slept for 3 straight days and nights, completely out cold, like I was trying to make up for all the sleepless nights I'd had. When I woke up again, it was already evening. The sky was dark, night had fallen outside, and I sat alone on the bed, staring at the shadows by the window, suddenly feeling so utterly lonely. Just like my life, a total failure, completely dark. All these years, I revolved way too much around Anthony, putting too much of my life into him, and I ended up losing myself. Maybe that's why Anthony got tired of me and fell for Patricia. My 7 years ended so disgracefully. My life has been so bleak and ruined. I turned on my phone. The moment it powered on, countless messages flooded in, some from Anthony, some from Patricia. I opened the message from Patricia. Patricia sent a screenshot of an INS photo, showing her and Anthony holding hands tightly, with a caption, "Only when we're evenly matched do I deserve to stand by your side." Anthony liked it below. My heart had gone numb. I exited the chat and started scrolling up through the messages one by one. The very top message was still from 3 days ago. It was a profile picture I hadn't seen in ages. "You lost the bet. I waited 7 years. Isn't it time you thought about me?" I was stunned for a few seconds, then replied, "Okay." I thought it would take forever to get a response, but then I saw typing on the other end. After a long wait, only one sentence came through. "A month from now, the divorce cooling off period ends. You get the divorce certificate, and then, we get the marriage certificate." Chapter 7. I never thought I'd get engaged to another man so soon. To be exact, 7 years ago, we were already engaged. Anthony only knows that my parents divorced when I was very young, because they looked down on me for being a girl. My dad didn't want me when he left. The ridiculous part is, My dad, who spent his whole life chasing after sons, ended up with only me after marrying countless women. The reason? Simple, my dad couldn't have kids. And just like that, I became his only child for life. 7 years ago, my aging dad finally remembered he had a daughter like me. He came to me and set up a marriage for me. Over the years, my dad's business in City A has only gotten bigger, building his own empire. So, he wanted to take me back and forced me to marry into another wealthy family. The match was the heir of the Koo group, Leonardo Koo. Leonardo and I spent some time together and went through a lot. When I first met Leonardo, he was caught in a family power struggle. His stepmother and stepbrother were trying to push him out of the Koo family. He came to me, saying he wanted to team up. I played his fiancé, and he used that to snatch back the Koo group, kicking out his scheming stepmother and stepbrother, and then he would go on to convince my dad to set me free. At that time, I had just started dating Anthony, and our feelings were burning hot. To be able to stay with Anthony for good, my love-struck brain agreed to Leonardo's proposal. I used work as an excuse to go on a business trip, leaving Anthony for 3 whole months. During those 3 months, I went back to my dad's place and pretended to be Leonardo's fiancé. Leonardo's stormy tactics brought my stepmother down after just 3 months. Leonardo claimed a total victory. The day Leonardo declared he was back in charge, I couldn't wait to run up to my dad and tell him I wanted out. I refused to go back to my dad, to give up the wealthy family fortune, and was totally willing to just huddle with Anthony in a tiny basement, living a poor life. At first, my dad wouldn't agree and locked me up. Later, it was Leonardo who stepped in. He stuck to the original deal, and I don't know what tricks he used, but he forced my dad to let me go. My dad had no choice but to let go. In the end, he was so angry that he threw harsh words at me, saying there would be a day when I'd come back crying. I still remember back then, I swore to my dad that Anthony would never let me lose. I had a huge fight with my dad, and after that, we stopped talking. Later, when Anthony wasn't around, Leonardo came down to the basement to find me. At that moment, he stood in the dark, cramped basement, cold and distant, his eyes red and swollen. "Are you really not going to consider me?" I shook my head. "My heart is small. It can only hold one person at a time." Leonardo understood. His dark eyes were like the deep sea, deep, serious, but filled with sorrow. "Katarina, let's make a bet, 7 years. If you lose after that, will you consider me?" The first time I crashed into Leonardo's eyes, they were so deep, like they wanted to swallow me whole. I nodded, like some kind of spell had taken over me. Back then, I thought Anthony would never let me lose. But who would have thought? After 7 years, the promise from 7 years ago would drift through time and come back around. Leonardo moved fast. The next day, he was already standing at the door of my little house. This house was left to me by my mom. After divorcing my dad, she chased one true love after another, and finally followed her true love to another place. When I was 16, she left only this house behind and then disappeared without a trace. 7 years ago, during those 3 months when I played Leonardo's fiancé, we got really close. He knew everything about me. So, he was the first one to show up right at the doorstep. Standing at the door, Leonardo's eyes were dark and deep, with a faint smile, but the slight trembling of his fingertips betrayed his nervousness. "Hello, fiancé." That familiar, intense gaze cut through 7 years like it was just yesterday. Suddenly, I felt so nervous, completely lost. "You're here so early." "Not early, I've been waiting for you for 7 years. Leonardo's silent gaze landed on my face, his eyes sparkling like stars. I suddenly blushed. Chapter 8. Leonardo accompanied me back to my home. This was the first time I'd been back since I had a falling out with my dad 7 years ago. 7 years without seeing him, and my dad looked even older. When he saw me, he snorted coldly and walked away. "I told you back then, there'd come a day when you'd come back crying." But then he turned around, had the servant prepare the biggest room for me, and even gave me a card with no spending limit. I guess he's seen everything I've been through these past 7 years. Leonardo helped me get everything sorted for moving back home, then asked if I needed any help with the divorce. I shook my head. Anthony actually kept his word and gave me all the assets except for the company. I just had to handle some paperwork for the division. I believe Anthony won't try to cheat me on this. Leonardo paused to think. Even though I don't care about his petty money, making him bleed is fine, just consider it compensation. I rubbed my forehead. Anthony's entire fortune, in Leonardo's eyes, is just some petty cash not worth looking at? A few days later was the day to handle the property division with Anthony. Leonardo wanted to come with me, but I didn't agree. After all, we haven't gotten the divorce certificate yet, so it's not the time to make a big fuss. When I went, Anthony was with Patricia. During the property division, Patricia, who always acted all proud and claimed she wouldn't fight or grab, looked furious, grinding her teeth. All this money was earned by Anthony, so why do you get to take it all? What kind of skill is it to snatch a man's money? If you're so capable, go earn your own. The bitterness and pity in Patricia's words were way too obvious, totally clashing with her usual aloof and proud act. I looked at Patricia with a laugh. Since you brag about not caring about money and wanting to earn your own, then Anthony can give his money to whoever he wants. Who do you think you are? Bossing everyone around? Why don't you go earn your own? Patricia was suddenly stunned. She was about to argue when Anthony nearby grew impatient. Frowning. Enough. This was the first time Anthony showed a cold face to Patricia. It was probably the first time he realized that in front of huge wealth, Patricia wasn't as calm and indifferent as she had pretended to be. Patricia was stunned, and the next second, anger flashed across her face as she instinctively stomped her foot. Anthony, if you can't let her go, then don't come looking for me. Men and toothbrushes, Patricia, never share with anyone, and I'm not desperate for you. After saying that, Patricia stomped away. If it were before, Anthony would have already chased after her to make up. But now, Anthony just rubbed his forehead, his face showing exhaustion. Katarina, Patricia is just a proud little girl, don't take it to heart. I waved my hand, ready to leave. This was just the beginning, and they were already fighting. I'm sure once they're really together, things are going to get seriously wild. Just as I turned around, he grabbed my hand. Anthony held my hand, his eyes dark and unreadable. Katarina, honestly, we don't have to get divorced. I cut Anthony off, calm and deliberate. What about Patricia? Didn't you say you two were evenly matched? Soulmates? Anthony's eyes darted away, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. I know, while we were apart, Patricia probably felt secure and started to get a little full of herself. She started acting like the boss's wife at the company, meddling in a lot of work stuff and offending many senior employees. At first, we thought Patricia was capable because she only handled assistant tasks, which were fairly manageable. Plus, with Anthony's open and behind-the-scenes support, it created this illusion that Patricia was really competent. Now, Patricia isn't satisfied with just being an assistant anymore. Her true abilities were quickly exposed, and she even made multiple mistakes that caused losses to the company. All show and no substance, always trying to stand out. This is now the company's collective opinion of her. Taking advantage of Anthony's dazed moment, I quickly slapped his hand away and turned to leave. I've said it before, my love is pure and honest. When I gave to Anthony, it was passionate, sincere, and without holding anything back. When I took it back, I cut it off like slicing water with a knife, resolute and never looking back. Chapter 9. During the 30-day divorce cooling-off period, my dad wasn't sitting still either. He threw a huge stack of company documents at me and snorted coldly. I'm already old. From now on, these burdens are all yours to carry. I took the documents and said quietly, such a huge company, how am I supposed to handle it? The old man raised an eyebrow, commanding respect without even getting angry. Don't think I don't know how that company with the surname Wu really got started. You're my own flesh and blood. How could there be any difference? As expected. Always so bossy and unreasonable. But my dad did have a point. As his only daughter, I really did inherit my dad's business smarts. The founding of Anthony Company was inseparable from me right from the start. It's just that before, I was head over heels for Anthony, willing to let all the credit and glory go to Anthony, happily playing the woman behind the scenes. I just didn't want to be in the spotlight. It's not that I wasn't capable, But before officially taking over the company, I want to use the divorce cooling off period to get away for a while, even though I'm dead set on divorcing Anthony. After 7 years together, he's like a rib bone inside me. Now I have to pull out that rib and rebuild my flesh and blood. The whole process feels like breaking bones and tearing muscles, pure soul-crushing pain. The old man waved his big hand. All right, I'll give you half a month. After that, get back and take over the company. I went to Iceland to see the aurora I'd always dreamed of. Leonardo came with me. I wanted to say no, but Leonardo looked at me so pitifully, like a little dog about to be abandoned by its owner. You rejected me once 7 years ago, but now, 7 years later, I want to fight for myself again. I couldn't be part of your past 7 years, but I don't want to miss a single moment of your future. Seeing Leonardo, usually so noble and cold, now begging like a little dog for a pet, my heart instantly softened, and I agreed. Leonardo and I stayed in Iceland for nearly half a month. On the 3rd day on the island, for the first time in my life, I chased the aurora. In that moment, I suddenly felt like breaking down. After holding it all in for days, all the pain and hurt I tried to hide behind a cool, indifferent act just exploded out. I started crying uncontrollably. For those dark 7 years when I lost myself completely. For the life I once thought was hopeless. Like I was falling into a bottomless pit. Leonardo wrapped me in his arms, gently rubbing my back. Katarina, if you want to cry, just let it all out. I'll always be here for you. I looked up through my tears, my voice shaking from crying. Leonardo, thank you. Thank you for always being there, for giving me confidence, for pulling me out of that abyss. No one knows how I got through those 3 days after smashing Anthony's office and locking myself in my little room. I was out cold for 3 days and nights, and the moment I woke up, staring alone into the pitch black outside the window, I felt like the whole world had abandoned me, especially when I saw the photo Patricia sent, her and Anthony holding hands tight. At that moment, my life felt completely dark, a total failure. It was Leonardo's WeChat message that ripped through the darkness of that night, shining a faint light. That beam of light, to me back then, was like a hand reaching out from the deep sea, a flicker of fire on an iceberg. It was hope. It was salvation. It was a desperate chance to survive. Leonardo held me tight, gently wiping away my tears. Solemn but so careful. Katarina, you're wrong. No one in this world can save anyone else. The only person who can save you is yourself. Leonardo's words struck my heart like heavy blows. One after another, I lifted my head and locked eyes with Leonardo's, shining like stars. There's no savior in this world. So, Katarina, no matter what, please, over and over, save yourself from the fire and the flood. My heart was suddenly shaken. I knew Leonardo was telling me that sometimes you have to break down to rebuild, to reinvent yourself. The aurora behind us lit up the sky, and beneath it, Leonardo's eyes shone even brighter than the lights. During my time in Iceland, at first, I picked up a few calls from Anthony. He'd either ask where his tie was or which drawer held his usual stomach medicine. After a few times, I got tired of it and just blocked Anthony right away. But Anthony was furious and immediately switched to another number to call. Katarina, where are you? Right then, Leonardo's lips were right behind my ear, his burning kisses raining down on my neck, making my whole body tremble. Anthony clearly sensed something was off and demanded, Katarina, who are you with? I held back and stopped Leonardo's antics, then walked over to the window. My fiancé. Chapter 10. The other end of the line suddenly went silent. The next second, Anthony's voice shot up. Besides me, who else could be by your side? Where did this fiancé come from? Before I could even explain, Anthony suddenly laughed. Katarina, are you just saying that to make me jealous? Even Anthony was so sure that for these 7 years, I'd been completely devoted to him, and he knew no one else could have been around me all this time. Thinking back on those 7 years, it was totally not worth it. I was left speechless. Think whatever you want, but don't call me again before the divorce cooling off period is over. After saying that, I hung up the phone. That was the first time I took the initiative to hang up on Anthony. I guess Anthony was just as stunned over there. A few seconds later, Anthony's phone rang again. like a desperate call. I couldn't take it anymore and just blocked that number. No more than 2 seconds after blocking, another unknown number sent a message, sounding impatient. Katarina, my patience is running thin. I don't have time to play your little game of playing hard to get. I was getting a bit annoyed by Anthony's relentless pestering, so I shot back. Chasing me so desperately, is it because you realized the one you love isn't what you imagined, and now you regret it? Knowing Anthony's proud and stubborn nature, once I said that, he definitely tried to save face. Sure enough, the other side went silent. After a long pause, Anthony finally replied, Anthony, never do things I regret. Katarina, I want you to watch closely, the one who should regret it is you. After that, Anthony really never came back to me. The world suddenly fell quiet. But who can tell me? What am I supposed to do with the person behind me, holding my neck and biting me, refusing to let go? After that, I had a pretty peaceful time for a while, but news about Anthony and Patricia kept pouring in nonstop. Maybe my words that day hit a nerve with Anthony, proud as he is. He started showing off his love like crazy. His INS is filled entirely with Patricia. He set off fireworks all night just for Patricia, arranging drones to spell out Patricia's name. He pulled out the little daisies we planted together in the yard and replaced them all with sunflowers that Patricia likes. He spent a fortune at an auction, releasing sky lanterns just for the necklace that Patricia loves the most. He even risked his life racing with others just because Patricia said she liked it, almost crashing and bleeding badly. He treated Patricia like a treasure in his palm, a star in the sky, the moon in his heart, making the whole world envy how much Patricia was adored. And Patricia posted a photo of them wearing matching couple rings, tagging me in it. Women shouldn't be like delicate vines. Only by loving yourself can you find someone who truly loves you. You have to be the leading lady of your own story. A whole flood of likes and comments poured in. Some were jealous and sent their blessings for their relationship. Others admired and praised Patricia for her proud independence, a true woman of the new era. And some compared me to Patricia, taking the chance to put me down. Meanwhile, Anthony sent me a message, his tone dripping with arrogance. If you were by my side right now, all the glory today would be yours. Katarina, I told you, I'm going to make you regret this. Looking at Anthony's message, I was honestly speechless, but I wasn't planning to pay any attention to it. Just as I was about to close the screen, a long, slender hand came from behind and snatched my phone away. Leonardo slammed my phone down on the table, his dark eyes burning with jealousy. Tomorrow, after we get the divorce certificate, we'll go get it right away. So this guy stops clinging to you. Seeing the usually proud and aloof Leonardo acting so jealous right now, I couldn't help but laugh. I stood on my tiptoes and kissed his eyes, teasing him on purpose. But I still have to go back and inherit the family business. And the family business is way more important than any man. Leonardo's ears instantly flushed red, and his breathing suddenly grew heavy. If you want the family business, I'll give you everything I have. He grabbed me as I tried to run away, pulled me close, and whispered in my ear, the family business is yours, and the man is yours too. Chapter 11. The day I went back was exactly when the divorce cooling off period ended. I took Anthony off my blacklist and sent him a WeChat message. I'm back. Tomorrow morning at 9. I'll be waiting for you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Anthony really kept his word, showing up right on time the next morning at the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance. And he even brought Patricia along. Patricia saw me and lifted her head proudly, like a peacock flaunting its feathers. Before going into the Civil Affairs Bureau, Anthony actually hesitated. He caught up to me in a few steps and whispered, Katarina, we don't really have to get divorced. What? Weren't you soulmates? Having second thoughts? Afraid Anthony would regret it, I quickly snapped back. Before I came back, I had already heard about it. Patricia had no real work skills and loved acting like the general manager's wife at the company, which caused the company to lose several orders in a row. Later, Anthony had to use the excuse that he wanted to see her first thing every day when he got home, convincing Patricia to quit her job. After Patricia quit, Anthony didn't end up living the life he had imagined. Before, they were having an affair in the office. They never really lived together. They only talked about romance and poetry, never about the daily grind. That thrill, the escape from the mundane everyday life, combined with Patricia's proud and aloof persona, made Anthony foolishly think he'd hit the jackpot. He'd found a woman who understood him, loved him, cared for him, and was also independent and clear-headed. But once they actually started living together, Patricia's carefully crafted image quickly crumbled in front of Anthony. Patricia loved to make a fuss and act up. She'd throw little tantrums over the smallest things, and they often ended up fighting over trivial stuff. Every time this happened, Patricia would slam the door and storm off, waiting for Anthony to come and make it up to her. Not only that, Patricia secretly started pushing Anthony to help her fit into high society, buying her designer bags, jewelry, and all that. She became more and more tacky, drifting further and further away from the proud, independent, strong woman image she used to claim. Once I pushed him. Sure enough, Anthony's expression changed. He lifted his head high, gritting his teeth. I will never regret this. Anthony raised his voice, like he was trying to convince himself. I'm not going to regret it. I'm just worried, once I'm gone, who else will want you? No sooner had he finished speaking than Patricia rushed over from behind, wrapping her arms possessively around Anthony, looking at me with disdain and suspicion. What now? Begging Anthony not to divorce? Katarina, don't you have any dignity? As a woman, I actually feel sorry for you. So, am I the one holding on, or is someone else not willing to let go? I let out a soft laugh. Anthony's face paled slightly, and he cleared his throat. All right, enough talking. The divorce process went smoothly, except when signing. Anthony suddenly hesitated. Katarina, actually meeting my eager gaze, Anthony tensed up. The next second, he snapped back to his cold expression, gritting his teeth in anger as he signed his name. After signing, I felt a huge weight lift off me. Holding the divorce certificate, I was ready to walk away from the marriage registration office. Someone's still waiting for me there. If I hadn't been scared something might go wrong during the divorce, and hadn't warned Leonardo a million times not to show up at the divorce registration window, he'd probably have already run over and kidnapped me. I hadn't even taken a few steps when someone grabbed my hand. Anthony hurried after me, grabbed my hand, his eyes dark and unreadable, his voice low. Katarina, I don't really want a divorce. I'm just kind of tired. Anthony looked lost, like he didn't even understand his own feelings. I was just caught up in a moment of excitement, used to home-cooked meals, always wanting to try something new. I never really meant to divorce you. I get it. After 7 years together, we knew each other like the back of our hands. It's just that good days got too routine, too dull, so he wanted to find some excitement elsewhere. But hey, if you choose something new and fresh, you gotta pay the price that comes with it. No one's gonna wait around for him, and I sure as hell won't. I frowned and shook off Anthony's hand, so calm it was almost cold. Anthony, I'm getting married. Chapter 12. Anthony stiffened, shock and disbelief flashing in his eyes. Then panic and fear took over. How is that even possible? Besides me, who else could you possibly marry? I took a deep breath and tried to explain patiently. Believe it or not, I'm going to register our marriage right now. No sooner had I finished speaking than Patricia, left behind in the hall, rushed over and suddenly slapped me across the face. Her face twisted with fury. Katarina, don't you have any shame? You're already divorced from Anthony, yet you still want to cling to him? I knew she was holding a grudge because I had slapped her in front of everyone at the company. Caught off guard by the slap and still stunned, Anthony snapped, shoved Patricia away, and said coldly, Patricia, what the hell are you freaking out about? I suddenly felt like laughing. Such a familiar line. Back then, when Anthony cheated on Patricia, I threw a huge fit, so heartbroken I almost wanted to hurt myself. At that time, Anthony responded to me with the exact same words. Now, the tables have turned, karma never fails. Patricia was stunned by Anthony's yelling, but the next second she snapped out of it and rushed forward, pounding on Anthony, completely forgetting the proud, high and mighty image she always tried to keep. You actually yelled at me for her. Anthony impatiently pushed Patricia away, suppressing his anger. Enough. Stop making a fool of yourself. Patricia suddenly froze. I stepped forward, staring coldly at Patricia, then slapped her hard across the face. I've wanted to slap you for so long. After saying that, I turned and walked away from those two lunatics. Before leaving, I heard Anthony deliberately low growl, and Patricia's loud tantrum. Anthony, you actually yelled at me because of her. I'm telling you, she's not going to register the marriage, she's just trying to provoke you, hoping you'll come back. None of this has anything to do with me anymore. At the marriage registration office, Leonardo had already been waiting for a long time. When he saw me, he strode over quickly, noticed something was off on my face, and his expression instantly changed. Who hit you? I shook my head, not wanting those two to ruin the good mood today. Seeing I wouldn't say a word, Leonardo stopped asking, gently caressing my face. But when I wasn't looking, a flicker of cruelty flashed deep in his eyes. Register. Stamp. Take wedding photos. The whole time, Leonardo held my hand tightly, not letting go for a single second. Leonardo, who usually rules the business world with ease and stays calm no matter what huge problems come his way, was now so nervous his body was trembling slightly. When registering, the staff teased Leonardo with a smile. Holding on so tight, afraid your wife will run away. Leonardo held me tightly with his left hand while signing with his right, his eyes full of deep, unbreakable love. Of course, after waiting 7 years for my wife, I have to hold on tight. After getting the marriage certificate, Leonardo immediately took a photo of the bright red booklet and posted it on INS, announcing it to the world. I wasn't used to Leonardo's loud style, but Leonardo hugged me. I've been waiting for this day for 7 years, and now that it's finally here, how could I not make a scene? Leonardo wasn't loud enough on his own, outwardly cold and noble. His dark, deep eyes had starlight as he leaned on my shoulder, his voice full of sorrow. What now? That guy still doesn't seem to give up on you. I instantly understood Leonardo's worry. So, I snapped a photo of the bright red marriage certificate and posted it on INS. Within seconds, my phone started ringing nonstop. Then I remembered Anthony's roaring voice. Katarina, did you seriously go and get married? Who did you marry? I didn't want to hide anything. Leonardo. There was sudden silence on the other end. After a few seconds, a sneer came through. You really are just like Patricia said, making up lies just to mess with me? In the whole city A, who doesn't know Coup Group's top dog Leonardo Coup? Stamp your foot, and City A shakes 3 times. Someone like that marrying me? No wonder Anthony can't believe it. From the other end of the phone came Patricia's mocking voice. I told you, she's just trying to get under your skin. Leonardo is who? All the socialites in City A thrown at his feet. And he wouldn't even glance at them, so how could he ever look twice at someone like Katarina? She's got some nerve, daring to use Leonardo to mess with you. Chapter 13. Anthony was about to say more, but Leonardo, standing beside him, suddenly grabbed the phone, frowning, casual yet intimidating. Anthony, watch yourself and your crew. Enjoy your last few good days while you still can. Leonardo hung up the phone, a cold, ruthless glint flashing in his eyes. That look, it's the 3rd time I've seen it. The first time was 7 years ago, when Leonardo drove away the stepmother and her son, reclaiming the Coup family name. The second time was during the day at the Civil Affairs Bureau, when Leonardo noticed the slap mark on my face. This is the 3rd time. I knew it, dawn had broken, and Anthony was about to go bankrupt. In my heart, I silently lit a candle for Anthony. Of all people to mess with, I had to pick this living nightmare, even though I was the one who caused all this chaos. After hanging up, Leonardo stepped closer, his voice more serious and determined than ever. Katarina, I'm nothing like Anthony. I would never be his second. I nodded. But you better not mess me around and then just leave. Someone's tone turned all pitiful again. I pretended to hesitate. That's not so sure. After all, I'm good-looking and rich now. My next words were swallowed by Leonardo. He suddenly lowered his head and, like a punishment, kissed me fiercely. I was lost in a dizzy haze. I believed in Leonardo. I believed 7 years ago, and I believe even more now. 7 years later, maybe from the very first moment I saw him, my heart was already stirring. But back then, I was wrapped up in Anthony's love, so I ignored the flutter inside me. Now that we're almost back together, all I can do is thank the heavens. As for everything else, I've got the looks, the money, the property, and the career. Oh, and there's an old man backing me up. What do I have to be afraid of? While kissing, Leonardo's hands started getting restless. Licensed and legit. Katarina. Iceland, I've been holding it in for half a month. This time you can't say no to me. A tidal wave of kisses crashed over me, conquering everything in its path. I felt like I was floating on cloud 9. When it came to me and Leonardo's marriage, the old man was over the moon, overwhelmed with excitement. He waved his hand and handed the company over to me, saying he wanted to enjoy his retirement. I officially took over my own company. Half a month later, news came that Anthony's company was on the brink of collapse. Orders were snatched away one after another, and almost all the top companies in City A had cut ties with Anthony. Anthony was basically blacklisted by the entire industry. No need to guess, I already knew who was behind it. I guessed that day at the Civil Affairs Bureau, when Leonardo saw the slap mark on my face. He started plotting to take down Anthony, with ruthless tactics. It took less than half a month before Anthony couldn't hold on anymore. The once thriving company is now hanging by a thread. Now Anthony doesn't even have time to come see me. He's completely overwhelmed with company troubles. No one knew the mastermind behind it all was Leonardo. Desperate for a last chance, Anthony kept looking for opportunities to climb up to Leonardo. Just a little sand slipping through Leonardo's fingers is enough to keep his company afloat for a whole year. Just in time, Leonardo is throwing a high-end cocktail party, planning to announce the partnership between Ku and Lin, and casually reveal our relationship. As for me, I'll also be announcing my status as the heir of the Lin family. Why don't I have the Lin surname? Because I took my mom's last name. At that moment, Anthony sneaked in with Patricia. We hadn't seen each other for half a month, and both looked visibly worn out. Anthony, once full of vigor and spirit, now looked weathered and worn. And Patricia, though she tried to keep up a proud and aloof act, the scheming in her eyes still gave away her true nature. When they saw me at the party, both of them just froze. Anthony quickly stepped forward, trying to pull me aside. Katarina, what are you doing here? Today's the day the Ku Group and the Lin Group announce their partnership, and especially Leonardo, who's announcing his marriage alliance with the Lin Group. Leonardo is not someone to mess with. Honey, you better go back. I took a step back, putting some distance between Anthony and me. My husband is here. Today's the day we announce our relationship, so why can't I be here? Patricia stood nearby, arms crossed, sneering. You're acting like you're addicted to this. Leonardo's wife is the daughter of the Lin family. Is your last name Lin? Sorry, I took my mom's last name. Patricia's eyes were dripping with even more sarcasm. Leonardo isn't Anthony. He's going to announce his marriage to the Lin family soon. Don't get kicked out then, that'd be so humiliating. Anthony snapped unhappily at Patricia. Shut up. Patricia stomped her foot and stormed off in anger. Looks like after they actually got together, instead of becoming soulmates, they just turned into bitter enemies. Katarina, crossing Leonardo is no joke. You better get out of here fast. If you manage to strike up a conversation with him later, I'll put in a good word for you. Anthony spoke anxiously, his voice full of concern. I shot Anthony a look like he was an idiot, then walked away from him. The party quickly reached the part where they announced the cooperation between the two companies. Leonardo stood on stage, facing everyone. Now, I want to invite my wife, who's also the heir of the Lin family, to come up and announce the cooperation between our two families. I stood up, ready to go on stage. The ever-present Lin Patricia sneered. Looks like you totally lost it after Anthony dumped you. Going completely crazy. Anthony, standing beside me, reached out and grabbed my hand, his eyes full of concern. Katarina, he hired the heir of the Lin family, his wife, so don't cause a scene. I shook off Anthony's hand. Could it be that person is me? Chapter 14. Under the shocked gazes of Anthony and Patricia, I stepped onto the stage and took Leonardo's hand. Leonardo held me tightly, his noble, cold face softened by a gentle smile. Down below, Anthony and Patricia were completely frozen. their eyes wide with shock like thunder had just struck through the thick crowd. Anthony's gaze shifted from shock to regret, and then slowly spiraled into madness. Halfway through the party, Leonardo grabbed my hand and brought me over to Anthony. "I heard you want to latch on to me?" Leonardo was calm but radiated intense pressure. A powerful wave of intimidation hit, and Anthony suddenly felt himself shrink. He took a deep breath and locked eyes with Leonardo. "Katarina, she used to be my wife. Now, she's mine." Leonardo stayed calm and collected, but his powerful presence made Anthony break out in a sweat. Anthony mustered all his courage, his eyes bloodshot as he tried to hold me back. "Katarina, I regret it. Can you please come back?" A man pushed his hand away. "Mr. Wu, please show some respect. My wife's proud, there's no way she'd ever go back." After the party, Anthony became completely infamous. The reason was simple: at the party, he had his eyes on Leonardo, the heir to the Lin Group's wife, and ended up getting beaten up badly. And this just pissed Patricia off even more. At the party, she completely lost it in front of everyone, turning their little spat into public drama. Long story short, Anthony and Patricia's reputations were totally destroyed. Right after that, Anthony's company declared bankruptcy. Afterwards, Anthony and Patricia broke up. No matter how much Patricia threw a fit, Anthony was dead set on breaking up. Gone was the admiration and spark he once felt. They used to be soulmates, but now their story ended in nothing but bitterness and regret. After breaking up with Patricia, Anthony was ready to leave the city and move to another, hoping for a fresh start. Before leaving, he came to see me. "I never really wanted to divorce you. We've been together for 7 years. How could I ever bear to truly leave you behind? I just thought, let's divorce for a while. I'll live the single life for a bit. Then I'll win you back." Anthony's eyes were bloodshot. "I never truly loved Patricia. I've always loved you. How did we end up like this?" Anthony tore open his shirt. Where Patricia's name used to be tattooed on his chest, now my name was carved there, still stained with fresh blood. He covered his face, tears slipping through his fingers. "Katarina, I regret it. I really regret it." I looked down at Anthony, crouched in front of me, crying uncontrollably, my voice steady. "Anthony, I forgive you. I forgive your betrayal. I forgive the pain you caused. And I forgive the 7 years we spent together." Anthony finally looked up, eyes full of hope and despair. "Katarina, is it possible that for the rest of our lives, it's truly over?" "Anthony, I'm doing well now, and I've found the right person." I stood up. "You should move on too. Just think of those 7 years as a dream that's over." Behind me, I heard Anthony's stifled sobs, but I just didn't care anymore. At that moment, I suddenly craved Leonardo. Desperate to see him, the faster I ran, the more my heart ached to see him sooner. Finally, I crashed into a familiar, solid embrace. In that instant, my heart suddenly calmed. Story 2. Chapter 1. After scheduling my abortion for tomorrow, I returned home. 6 years ago, we got our marriage certificate, and back then, he personally promised to give me a grand, one-of-a-kind wedding. At that time, my mother, despite being gravely ill, handmade a wedding dress for me. Tomorrow was supposed to be our wedding day, and today was the rehearsal. But all I saw at the banquet hall were wedding photos of him and his childhood sweetheart on social media. I finally understood that constant compromise and tolerance wouldn't bring happiness. Victor walked in with a cold expression, seeing me sitting on the sofa without immediately greeting him. His frown deepened. "Why are you being so unreasonable now? Lily, just a naive girl, was kind enough to try on the wedding dress for you. Why are you throwing a fit for no reason?" I lifted my head and glanced at him indifferently, then continued canceling our honeymoon trip on my phone. My fault. Hearing my dismissive tone, Victor's face grew even darker, but he didn't notice anything wrong with me, only assuming I was throwing a childish tantrum. With a loud bang, the simple gift box in his hand was tossed to the ground. The sound of shattering porcelain echoed. I glanced down and saw that it was a pair of porcelain swan ornaments. I had seen them before. They weren't expensive. Just a free gift with a set of luxury pink dinnerware. "Lily picked this gift for you so thoughtfully." Victoria, but someone as filthy-minded as you doesn't deserve her kindness. Faced with his accusations, the old me would have panicked, apologized, and begged for another chance. I used to love him so humbly, throwing away every ounce of my self-respect just for a little affection from him. I once thought that I couldn't survive without him. Now, I know I can live just fine, even without him. Then take it with you. I rubbed my temples, not wanting to argue with him any further. I got up, intending to head to the guest room, but he grabbed my wrist tightly. Victoria, this is the last time I'll tell you. Are you a dog? Why do you always feel the need to mark your territory? How many times have I told you I hate your selfish and greedy personality? I looked at him, exhausted, just wishing he'd let me go so I could rest. So, I'm setting you free now. He still wanted to continue questioning me, but his phone rang at that moment. The screen flashed with his childhood sweetheart's name. He answered, and Lily's high-pitched, sweet voice came through. His expression softened instantly. He shot me a disdainful glance and stepped aside with the phone. I couldn't hear what was being said on the other end, but the smile on Victor's face was sweet. Okay, I get it. Suddenly, I wanted to know how much I still mattered to Victor. So, just before he left, I asked him directly, tomorrow is our wedding day. Where are you going now? Victor's expression turned a little sour. I'm going to pick up the wedding rings for tomorrow. Victoria, you're an adult now. Can you stop being so unreasonable? Maybe he was right. In the past, I lacked a sense of security, always needing to ask him exactly where he was going whenever he left. I was just worried about him. That's all. We were both too busy defending ourselves. But I said, then take me with you. Victor gave me a look, as if to say I knew it. You're hopeless. He shoved past me and left. I followed him, rubbing my slightly aching abdomen, and got into the car. In the front passenger seat, there were several girly trinkets. I only glanced at them briefly before leaning back in my seat, closing my eyes to rest. Victor seemed surprised by my silence. He pressed his lips together, reluctantly explaining, Lily hasn't been feeling well lately, so I've been giving her more rides. If this had been in the past, I might have cried and thrown a tantrum, demanding that he remove all those things. But now, I just responded with a simple It didn't matter anymore. Chapter 2. When we arrived at the jewelry store, I noticed that Victor seemed distracted, constantly checking his phone. It was already late. I asked the clerk to retrieve the jewelry set I had left for repair. Just then, Victor's phone rang again. Whatever was said on the other end, he walked away with the phone, forgetting I was still in the store. Where are you going? I called after him. Victor didn't even turn around, replying impatiently, I'll be back in a bit. I looked at the gloomy sky outside and swallowed all the words I wanted to say. There was no point in stopping him. It had always been like this. One word from his childhood sweetheart could call him away in the dead of night. Even on the anniversary of my mother's death, one of the hardest days of my life, after picking up my jewelry, the rain had started to fall outside. I had planned to hail a cab, but I ended up slipping and falling hard on the ground. A sharp pain shot through my abdomen, so intense I couldn't even get up. Luckily, a kind young woman helped me to my feet and took me home. I clutched the jewelry box tightly in my arms, curled up on the bed, and endured the worst of the pain alone. At that moment, Victor stormed into the guest room with a cold expression. Seeing me lying on the bed, he immediately exploded in anger. What's wrong with you? Didn't I tell you to wait for me there? Do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you? Why are you always so selfish? Chapter 3. I was so angry that my vision momentarily went black. Over the years, he's always been like this. Even when it wasn't my fault, he would insist that it was, stabbing me with his words regardless of the truth. With each compromise I made, he only became more unreasonable. I've been back for less than 10 minutes. I was waiting for you at the store before that. My calm expression must have thrown Victor off, making him uncomfortable. For a brief moment, guilt flickered across his face. Then, as if remembering something, he stormed outside and came back with a cardboard box. I brought the wedding dress back for you. She just tried it on for a moment, Is that really worth getting angry over? He threw the box onto the floor, and I saw the crumpled dress inside. Tried it on? Who wears someone else's wedding dress and takes pictures with someone else's husband the day before the wedding? I scrolled through my social media feed. A pair of intertwined hands. On their ring fingers were matching, sparkling wedding bands. The caption read, "Just right." Those were the rings I designed, unique in the entire world. But now, they were on someone else's fingers, just like my wedding dress, stained and violated. There's no need to be upset. It's not going to be used anyway. I stood up, intending to pack away the dress, but he grabbed my wrist. What do you want now? I gave you the wedding you wanted. You should be satisfied. I've told you countless times. Lily is just like a sister to me. Why are you always so jealous of her? Look at yourself, pale as a ghost. Why did I ever marry someone like you? He forcefully pressed me against the vanity. The woman in the mirror was pale, gaunt, with swollen red eyes. She didn't resemble the old me at all. It won't happen again. From now on, whatever the two of you want to do, do it. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I had finally given up completely, but Victor thought I was just sulking, trying to play some manipulative game. The only thing left in his eyes was disgust and impatience. That won't work on me. Fine. I'll tell you the truth. Tomorrow's wedding will be an apology to Lily on your behalf. It's all because of your petty jealousy that Lily got sick. You're the one responsible, and you'll have to pay for that. That's the price you owe. I lay against the cold vanity, staring into the mirror at Victor's hatred for me. 6 years. I had fought with him countless times, quarreled over his childhood sweetheart again and again. But in the end, all I ever received were his abandonment, his accusations, and his misplaced anger. This isn't what real love is supposed to be. Constantly lowering my standards only brought me more pain. I struggled to free my hand from his grip and looked back at him. Haven't I paid enough already? Victor, you know that was the wedding dress my mother made for me. It was her keepsake to me. I fought back tears. Ever since my mother passed away, the memories I had left of her were growing fewer and fewer. I had given all my mother's assets to him, except for this wedding dress, which I had carefully preserved. He, of all people, knew what that dress meant to me, but he still did this. Victor pressed his lips together. But in the end, he said nothing and slammed the door on his way out. I collapsed onto the bed. Then I called my lawyer. I want a divorce. That night, Victor didn't come home. Instead, I received a video from his childhood sweetheart. In it, the two of them lay on a bed, their clothes disheveled. The woman was tightly wrapped in Victor's arms, full of possessiveness. Old woman, what do you have to fight me with? How ridiculous. I immediately saved the video as evidence of Victor's infidelity. This man? I don't need him anymore. Chapter 4. I thought I would have trouble sleeping, but instead, I slept through the entire night. Victor's call woke me up. Get ready. I'll pick you up to go to the hotel soon. Today was supposed to be our wedding day, yet I felt like a stranger. I packed a few things, planning to go to the hospital instead, but as soon as I stepped outside, I saw Victor's car. He was laughing and chatting with the woman in the passenger seat. But when he saw me, his expression darkened. Do you even know what day it is today? Lily smirked at me with a mocking smile. Sis, you're not blaming me, are you? Actually, that old, ugly dress didn't suit me at all. It's much more fitting for a woman like you. This wasn't the first time she'd taunted me, but every time we argued, Victor would never take my side. He'd always stand above it all, reprimanding me for stooping to argue with a young girl. I glanced at the short white wedding dress Lily was wearing. That dress really does suit you. Well, I'll just congratulate you both in advance on a long and happy marriage. It was only then that Victor seemed to notice Lily's outfit. Uncomfortably, he loosened his collar and urged me to hurry. Get in the car already. If we're any later, we'll miss the time. Did he really expect me to go through with this ridiculous wedding? Thinking of the guests I had invited, I rubbed my temples and opened the backseat door. The entire ride, Lily chatted with Victor about the wedding arrangements. I closed my eyes to rest, while Victor seemed distracted. When we arrived at the hotel, I couldn't believe what greeted me. A giant poster of the photo Lily had posted on her social media. Lily was holding onto Victor's arm, her smile radiant and filled with happiness. But Victor turned to look at me, his mouth opening as if to say something, but no words came out. I had no idea what he wanted to say, but I walked into the hotel first. I had once dreamed of our wedding day, filled with anticipation. I had personally designed every aspect of the ceremony, but now, the elegant and romantic champagne color scheme had been replaced with a girly pink theme. It was obvious whose preference that was. As soon as I walked in, the guests turned to look at me, especially Lily's parents, who were sitting in the bride's seat. Their smug expressions were truly an eyesore. Victoria, what's going on? Why is the wedding poster of Victor and another woman? My best friend Monica stormed over, fuming with anger. I knew she was upset on my behalf, but it didn't matter anymore. I patted her hand gently. The bride has changed. It's not me. I'm finally free. Victor, who had been following closely behind me, suddenly grabbed me and pulled me in front of him. What do you mean by that? I pointed at the screen, which was now showing intimate photos of him and Lily. Today is your wedding with Lily. As your ex-wife, I've chosen to offer my respect and congratulations. Chapter 5. For the first time, Victor's face showed panic, but soon enough, he regained his usual composure. What wedding? This is something you owe to Ching Ching. It's because of your petty jealousy that Lily got sick. The doctor said the only way to help her recover was to fulfill her wishes. So I arranged all of this. It's all part of her treatment. There was a hint of expectation in his eyes, probably hoping I would compromise like I used to. But I simply pulled my hand back and took a step away from him. I understand. Victor looked surprised by my response. Just as he was about to step closer, Lily hooked her arm through his. Victor, the ceremony is about to start. We should go get ready. She turned her gaze to me, a mocking glint shining in her eyes. Big sister is so magnanimous. Surely she wouldn't want to ruin someone else's wedding, right? My condition is still unstable. If anyone tries to upset me, I can't promise what might happen. Then, she smiled sweetly at Victor. Victor, why don't we make her my bridesmaid? I'd love for her to witness our happiness together. Monica was on the verge of ripping Lily's face off, but for my sake, she held back. I sneered as I looked at Victor. Is this what you think too? Victor seemed a little displeased, but as someone used to indulging Lily's every whim, he still said to me, "This is just part of her treatment. Cooperate, will you? Besides, if it weren't for you, Lily wouldn't have gotten sick. This is what you owe her." Monica couldn't hold back anymore and stepped in front of me. Using a wedding as a treatment? You're really generous to your dear little sister. And don't act like everyone's a fool. Anyone can see you two are more than just friends. This is the first time I've seen someone so brazen about their affair. Truly eye-opening. Monica didn't lower her voice at all, and our argument had already started attracting the attention of the people nearby. Seeing this, Lily deliberately nestled into Victor's arms. Victor, did I really do something wrong? I just wanted big sister Victoria to share in our happiness. For Victor, nothing upset him more than Lily's tears. He might have hesitated before, but now, he pushed Monica aside and forcibly dragged me toward the dressing room. Why do you always have to blame others for your mistakes? I told you, this is just part of her treatment. Hurry up and change, or don't blame me for what happens next. I finally couldn't hold back any longer and shook off his hand. Treatment? Victor, are you lying to me? Or are you lying to yourself? Today was supposed to be our wedding, but here you are, playing house with another woman. Do I really need to spell out what's going on in your head? It seemed my words struck a nerve, and Victor's actions became even more forceful. He practically dragged me toward the dressing room. I'm just friends with Lily. Your mind is filthy. You'll apologize to her, or we're getting divorced. Let go of me. I struggled, but this time Victor had made up his mind. With a loud bang, I stumbled and slammed my stomach hard against a table. The pain was excruciating, but he didn't seem to care. Victor! My voice was filled with agony. He finally stopped, but what he saw was my white dress rapidly being stained with blood. We're getting divorced. With that, I lost the strength to stand and collapsed to the floor. Chapter 6. In an instant, chaos erupted. Victor's eyes seemed to turn red, stained by the sight of my blood. For the first time, he lost all of his calm composure and frantically held me in his arms. But even then, he still believed I was pulling some kind of stunt to delay the wedding. Victoria, enough. I thought you had changed, but you're still hopeless. In the next moment, Monica rushed over and slapped Victor hard across the face. Are you blind? Can't you see she's bleeding? Victor, you're a monster. All these years she's given you everything, and now you insult her and trample over her just for that childhood sweetheart of yours. Who do you think you are? Without Victoria, you'd still be that poor boy begging everyone for help. I was wrong about you, but from now on, I won't let you off easily. Monica's words finally tore away the prideful mask Victor had been hiding behind all these years. She was right. Everything Victor had, he owed to me. It was as if her words had slapped him harder than her hand, and his face darkened. Monica and a few other friends quickly lifted me off the floor, but just then, Lily started crying and grabbed Victor's hand. Victor, I feel so tight in my chest. Am I going to die? Victor's eyes stayed fixed on me the whole time. When he saw that I hadn't looked at him once, he took a step toward me, but Lily clung to him again. The doctor said that if I don't get this treatment, I may never recover. Please, Victor, help me this one last time. In the end, Victor hesitated for too long. The surgery went smoothly. Still, I had suffered a lot. The surgeon was furious. What's going on with the family? The patient's body was already weak, and a blow like that could have been fatal. If she hadn't been brought in so quickly, even after the miscarriage, she would have been in serious danger. Outside the hospital room, Victor's face was pale. He staggered back a few steps before angrily storming into my room to confront me. Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant? Or is it that you never planned to have my child? His attempt to shift the blame infuriated Monica, who slapped him across the face again. Victoria was planning to surprise you with the baby as your wedding gift. You bastard! And what did you do? The day before your wedding, you let your mistress wear that wedding dress for a photo shoot. You knew how much that wedding dress meant to Victoria, yet you still deliberately hurt her. I could kill you for being such an ungrateful wretch. My friends stood between me and Victor, not allowing him to come any closer. The blood loss had left me feeling faint, and the next thing I heard after fully waking up was Victor shouting outside the door. She's my wife! Why shouldn't I be allowed to go in? Monica, of course, didn't back down. You're nothing but a cheating scumbag who got married to someone else on your own wedding day. You think you have the right to see our Victoria? Dream on! I cleared my throat. Monica, let him in. Reluctantly, Monica stepped aside, but she stayed close to me, ready to protect me. Victor looked worn out. He was still wearing the same clothes from the day before. There was guilt on his face, and just as he was about to say something, I interrupted him. Lawyer Zhang has probably contacted you already, right? The divorce papers will be sent to your office later today. Once you sign them, we'll have nothing to do with each other. Victor violently shook his head, his face filled with regret. No, Victoria, we promise to be together forever. I won't divorce you. At that moment, Lily burst in, clinging to Victor's waist. Honey, how could you leave me behind and run off? I missed you so much. Chapter 7. Before, this scene might have broken my heart, but now I just found the two of them utterly ridiculous. For the first time, Victor didn't indulge her. Instead, he frowned and pushed her away. Stop calling me that. Didn't we agree this was just to help with your treatment? Lily froze. Victor had never spoken to her so coldly before. Forcing a smile, she tried to continue playing coy. But we've already had our wedding, haven't we? Besides, I might already be carrying our baby. Lily smiled as she rubbed her stomach, as if there were actually a child inside. Victor pushed her away again, rushing to explain himself to me. It's not true. Don't listen to her. Sweetheart, I have nothing to do with her. She's the one who's been clinging to me. I was just trying to help her with her treatment. You're the only one I've ever loved. That's never changed. Ha! Victor didn't realize that his sweet little childhood friend had already sent me their intimate video. Now, I just stared at the two of them. My expression indifferent. She's right. If you've already had your wedding, then you're husband and wife. Congratulations. Victor became even more frantic in his attempts to explain. Lily clung to him tightly, making it difficult for Victor to shake her off. In the end, he suppressed his anger and dragged her out of my hospital room. Wait for me, sweetheart. I'll clear things up with her and be right back. Lily still had the audacity to taunt me like a victor, but she didn't realize she had already lost completely. I had always known deep down that Victor was a selfish person, but I was so desperate for warmth, for someone to stay by my side, that I fell headfirst into his fake trap, constantly giving in to his manipulation and control. Victor came back shortly after. His smile was strained, his brow frequently furrowing. No matter what he said, I only had one response for him: sign the divorce papers, and we'll be done. Each time, he reacted with intense opposition. No, we're not getting divorced, Victoria. We were so happy together. Don't leave me. I was too exhausted to watch him spiral out of control. The next day, I had my divorce lawyer bring the papers to the house. Without even glancing at them, Victor tore the agreement into pieces. But it didn't matter. I had anticipated this, so the lawyer had brought several copies. Victor finally broke down, showing vulnerability for the first time as he knelt beside my hospital bed, begging me, please, sweetheart. I know I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. I'm begging you. I can't live without you. I looked at him with a cold smile, as if I were staring at a stranger. It's not that you know you were wrong. It's that you've realized Lily isn't as sweet and innocent as you thought. And you've also realized that after the divorce, you'll lose everything you have now. Victor, it was my love that lifted you to where you are. I gave you the chance to trample on my heart. But I won't stay this humble forever. To the outside world, Victor appeared to be a successful businessman, a rising star in the corporate world. But without the support of me and my friends, he would be nothing. Victor remained on his knees, his face ashen. That's not true. I really love you. I don't even know how things got this bad. Now that I've freed myself from that shallow love, I realize that maybe Victor did love me once, but he loves the vanity that wealth brings him even more. You're afraid of losing it all. You know better than anyone that it was I who gave you all of this. So to make others forget that you climbed up by living off me, you humiliated me, and let your little childhood sweetheart become a thorn in my side. You treated me like a dog, forcing me to submit to you. Loving you was the most worthless thing I've ever done in my life. Victor, now stripped of his false facade, fled the hospital almost like a lost soul. Chapter 8. Monica finally let out a sigh of relief. Victoria, I was really scared you'd soften up and forgive him again. We've all been watching you suffer for so many years, and it always felt like you deserved so much better. I smiled weakly. Deep down, I had always known the truth, but I was too weak, too afraid to face this lonely world on my own. That's why I clung to him like a lifeline, desperate to hold on, only to drag myself further into the abyss. I thought Victor wouldn't show up anymore, but for the next 2 weeks, he surprised me by coming early every day to take care of me. Even though Monica yelled and hit him, he kept coming back, often bringing me my favorite foods, trying to coax me into eating a bit more. It felt like everything had returned to how it was at the beginning, but I knew better. We could never go back to that. On the day of my discharge, I didn't tell Victor, nor did I return to my own home. Monica, still worried about me, took me to her place to look after me. I was deeply moved by her kindness. I sent Victor a message, telling him to meet me tomorrow at 10 at the cafe below his office. If he didn't show up, I'd file for divorce. Over the years, his childhood sweetheart had been extremely bold. She had even turned their romantic life into a social media sensation, becoming a famous influencer couple. All of this had become evidence in my hands. But Victor didn't come. Victoria, give me a few more days. I promise. No one will ever come between us again. His empty promises had long lost their power over me. So, I went directly to his secretary. She was incredibly capable, and what Victor didn't know was that she was a student my mother had sponsored. She had always been on my side, but I hadn't been clear-headed enough to see it before. Miss, I'm so glad you finally reached out, she said. I felt a little guilty, but the secretary didn't blame me. Instead, she gave me a reminder. Since that wedding, the rumors about Victor and Lily have gained a lot of attention. The company's stock price has already been affected, and I expect the board will be taking some big steps soon. Our partners are feeling the strain too. It looks like Victor is going to owe a lot of money. Victor had been far too confident. After my mother passed away, I handed over most of the company's control to him. But the truth was, my shares and connections were still intact, and I wasn't just a helpless woman who relied on others to survive. Victor had severely underestimated me. Thank you for waiting for me all these years, I said to the secretary. I won't give up everything that belongs to me anymore. The secretary sighed. I understand why you struggled. Anyone who witnessed their loved one die in front of them would find it hard to recover. Miss, I've wanted to tell you for so many years, it's not your fault. Your mother was just too exhausted. Tears streamed down my face. Years ago, I watched my mother jump from a building and die right in front of me. The sight of her blood, so vivid and red, overwhelmed me. It suffocated me, and I couldn't breathe. I knew she had suffered for too long from her illness. But selfishly, I had wanted her to stay with me a little longer. That guilt and self-blame had wrapped around me so tightly that I almost lost myself completely. Thanks to the secretary's careful planning, Victor finally couldn't handle the pressure anymore. He had a huge fight with his precious childhood sweetheart. After that, Lily held a live stream. She put on her usual fragile and pitiful act, crying about how her husband had been stolen by a mistress. She even claimed she was pregnant but that her husband was determined to abandon her. She talked about how she and Victor had been childhood sweethearts and even showed pictures of them together as children, claiming to be the real Mrs. Victor. Initially, the gossip had people calling her the homewrecker, but now they turned against me, sympathizing with her. But soon after, her live stream was shut down, and her account was banned entirely. At first, I thought Monica had stepped in, but to my surprise, it was Victor who did it. Looks like things aren't so cozy between him and his little childhood sweetheart anymore, Monica joked, mocking Victor's blindness. Lily wasn't normal. In the past, to provoke me, she would send me the corpses of animals in the mail. I had told Victor about it, but he never believed me. In his eyes, Lily was always sweet and innocent, but I knew the truth. Lily was a lunatic. With everything spiraling out of control, Victor's company took a huge hit. And just as he was struggling to keep things together, someone reported him for tax evasion. Victor became the target of public scorn and was swiftly removed from his position as CEO by the board of directors. Overnight, everything he had vanished into thin air. Chapter 9. When Victor appeared in front of me again, he looked utterly defeated. Victoria, could you help me just this once? For the sake of everything we've been through? His tone was sincere, and he tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. By this time, I had already moved out of Monica's place and into my new home. It didn't surprise me that Victor managed to find me. I let him in, and the divorce papers lay neatly on the coffee table in the living room. Sign them. There's no point in dragging this out any longer. It won't do either of us any good. Instead of replying, Victor suddenly dropped to his knees in front of me. His emotions shattered, and he began crying and begging me. No divorce. You're all I have left now. Victoria, I admit I was wrong before, but it's only because I loved you too much. You're so perfect and exceptional. I was so lucky to have you, but I always felt like a thief. Like I didn't deserve you. So, maybe he was telling the truth. But to me, those words were even more repulsive than a lie. You only love yourself. If you truly loved me, you wouldn't have stood by and let your childhood sweetheart humiliate and provoke me. To you, my jealousy was something to boast about. In your eyes, I was just a foolish woman, one who would believe every lie you told and be grateful for the scraps of attention you threw my way. Victor's face grew paler by the second. No, it's not like that. He lifted his head, his tear-filled eyes brimming with guilt and resentment. I do love you. I was just deceived by her. I found his words laughable. But wasn't that what you wanted all along? Didn't you know Lily was full of lies? You let me suffer because you wanted to break me, to mold me into a puppet without my own thoughts, one that could only live by depending on you. I felt a surge of emotion, not because I still loved him, but because I pitied the person I used to be. Victor stood up slowly, his head bowed. Am I really that unforgivable, Victoria? No matter what I do, you won't forgive me? I pointed at the divorce papers. Sign them now, and we can at least part ways with some dignity. But then, he suddenly looked up, a wild glint appearing in his eyes. I understand now. It's because I hurt you that you want to leave me, but that's fine, Victoria. We still have a chance. Yes, let's have another baby. You love children so much, you wouldn't leave me then. Victor lunged at me. I never expected him to be so shameless. Let go of me, Victor. If you don't stop, I'll call the police. But Victor grabbed my hands. His face contorted in pain as he stared at me. I absolutely can't let you go, Victoria. You can hate me, but I won't let go. He's lost it. I struggled with all my might, but it was useless. Victor was too strong. He had complete control over me, and I had no way to resist. Just then, Lily kicked the door open and burst in, screaming, "What are you doing?" Victor froze for a moment, then kissed my face, speaking softly, "Wait until I deal with this troublesome woman, and after that, no one will disturb us again." He pulled off his tie and bound my hands, but I saw something hidden in Lily's sleeve. She glared at me with rage, as if she were the wife who had caught me cheating. "Didn't you promise to marry me, Victor? Why are you back here with the slut? She must have seduced you, clinging to you like a ghost that won't leave." Facing Lily, Victor only had hatred left. "How do you still have the nerve to show up? Lily, I made it clear from the start that I've always seen you as my sister. You were the one clinging to me, which caused misunderstandings between me and my wife. Now, get out. I don't want to see you again." Lily's face changed from its previous viciousness to one of tearful fragility. She sobbed and begged Victor, "Victor, I can't live without you. We already have a baby. Please come back with me." Victor, annoyed, pushed her away. "If you're sick, go get treated. I told you. That night was a mistake. And besides, a child born from someone like you, with mental issues, would probably be a freak." Lily was stunned. As Victor's childhood sweetheart, she had been treated like a princess by everyone after Victor became successful. She truly believed that she was Victor's true love, and that I was the third party standing in their way. So, all of her hatred was directed toward me. But now, she finally saw the coldness and cruelty of Victor. "No, it can't be." Lily held her stomach, her face filled with disbelief. "You told me I was the one you loved the most." Victor became even more agitated. He had been trying to win me back, but Lily's constant meddling was ruining his plans. "Love you? Love you for pretending to be sick? Love you for all your lies? Go get rid of that child. Consider it your apology to Victoria." Once again, Victor assumed his role as the controlling manipulator. In the past, Victor sacrificed my wedding to Lily, and now he wanted to offer Lily's child to me. But why? Wasn't he the one who had done everything wrong? Lily trembled with fury, shouting, "You're actually asking me to get rid of the baby? No, I won't." But Victor had lost all patience. He grabbed Lily by the throat and dragged her away forcefully, cursing as he went. "Do you even know what you are? If it weren't to make Victoria more obedient, I would never have used you to provoke her." The rejection of her love shattered the last bit of Lily's sanity. She pulled out a knife from her sleeve. With every ounce of her strength, she stabbed Victor's chest repeatedly. Blood splattered everywhere. Victor fell to the ground, his face twisted in agony, while his childhood sweetheart continued stabbing him with unrestrained madness. "You belong to me. You're mine. I won't let anyone take you away from me." Victor's voice faded until there was silence. Lily then turned her gaze toward me, sitting on the couch. "It's all your fault." She began walking toward me, knife in hand. I instinctively shrank back in fear, but there was a strange smile on my face. "If you kill me, Victor can stay with me forever." She stopped suddenly. In an instant, she turned the knife on herself, plunging it deep into her own chest. You'll never take him from me, Victor. He's mine. Everything finally fell silent. I let out a piercing scream, loud enough to alert the passers-by outside. Chapter 10. Victor and Lily both met their end, thanks to the surveillance footage in the living room. Even though there was no audio, it was clear that Victor had intended to harm me. As for Lily, after killing Victor, she took her own life. Monica came to pick me up. In everyone's eyes, I was the pitiful victim. As Victor's widow, I successfully inherited all of his assets. The divorce agreement I had proposed, which called for the fair division of our property, had remained and signed by Victor. That document now served as proof of my innocence. Victor had been an orphan. It was because Lily's family had taken care of him for a while during his childhood that he treated her so differently. But he forgot that if it hadn't been for the support from me and my mother, he would have remained an ordinary man, not the feared and respected CEO he had become. Lily's parents tried to slander me online, but the truth was already known, and netizens retaliated by attacking them viciously. They became so overwhelmed that they didn't even dare to leave their house. Victor was such scum, he deserved to die. Victoria, how about we go on a little trip in a few days to clear your mind? Monica had been taking care of me this whole time. I smiled and nodded, then sold the house where everything had happened at a low price. It's funny, really. That house was just one street away from Lily's family home.